Good afternoon. My name is Al Morrow and I am the chair of the Heritage Committee here in Hanover. I want to start off this little talk this afternoon with a quote. Life without music would be a mistake. And I'm saying this sitting in the brand newly renovated Hanover Town Hall or Civic Theatre, if you want to call it that. And we're very excited to see all the work that's been done. And hopefully this will get a lot of use in the future. Music in Hanover has had a long history. It began before the turn of the 1900s. And it was largely done in homes and churches. Music in homes was a common thing, and of course a lot of different members of the family played piano or music of some kind, and churches had strong choirs. They had strong congregations back then and strong choirs as well. But like anything else, it had to have leaders with vision and leaders who had an idea of what they would like to hear or what they would like to do in the way of music. And it was these leaders that eventually took the music out into the community. There wasn't a lot of places to have large congregations or large, other than churches, large groups of people. There was a Bernie's Hall, which held a couple hundred people, and there was a Telford Hall on the corner of 7th Avenue and 10th Street on the second floor of a building. These were hard to get to, of course, and they're not accessible like our buildings are nowadays. It's interesting to note that this town hall and library were both built the same year, 1911. And it's in looking through the history books to try and find some reason why the town hall was built at the same time. The library, of course, was built with a grant of $10,000 from the Carnegie Foundation, which is throughout all of the United States. But what prompted the town to go ahead and build a town hall along with it? That was extra cost. They certainly had the land. Daniel Knechtel had donated enough land to house both buildings, and both buildings were separate at that time. The history books have really no comment on that. Perhaps it'll come to light sooner or later. As I mentioned before, you had to have leadership. You had to have someone who was willing to head up these concerts and music extravaganzas, so to speak. And some of the early people were Josephine and Elizabeth Hahn, and Pauline Hahn, her sister. They began doing operettas in the late teens and early 20s of the 1900s. Another name that comes to mind is Harry Mann, who was a band leader, orchestra leader, and he actually headed up the Gypsy Troubadour, which was done in the early 1940s. Some of the other operettas that were done, it was HMS Pinafore, Pirates of Penzance, The Mikado, Trial by Jury. These were all done in the 1920s and 1930s in the new town hall or civic theater. In the 1940s, there was musical groups formed. The Hanover Musical Society was very strong. It was composed of the bands, of course, in town, and there was always a marching band in town. Every kid I knew played a musical instrument of some kind, whether it suited them or not. I played the oboe actually, but it was not a marching instrument, so I didn't get to march that much. There was a musical society chorus, a singing group, which I'm sure put on all kinds of concerts, maybe at Christmas, maybe in the spring like the Grey Bruce Singers do nowadays. There was also a string quartet that put a little bit of more orchestral music into the town hall. And all these groups used this town hall as a home base. And the building, I'm sure, was busy all of the time. In fact, it was probably hard to even book a space or a time to even get into the building to use it. I can remember as a boy sitting downstairs in a group of junior bands members and playing all kinds of squeaky instruments and trying to get a good sound out of them, of course, which some of us never did. But the town bands were very strong. As I mentioned, Harry Mann was the leader of the senior band, and the bands won many trophies. The junior band was organized and brought along by Bob Esser, which was another band member. And without those two people, things would not have progressed as well. And this is what I'm mentioning about leadership and vision moving forward. In 1937, unfortunately, the town hall, after getting so much initial use, a fire began. And strangely enough, the fire began in the fire truck in the basement, because the fire hall was in the basement of the town hall. I don't know whether this was originally planned this way to have the fire hall in the basement, but in the early days that's what you did. And apparently there was a short in some kind of one of the trucks, and the town hall burned. And it went from having a beautifully peaked roof with a balcony to a flat roof as it is nowadays. However, things moved on, and they repaired the building, and things picked up again after the war, and we find ourselves in a newly renovated building even today. So in the 1950s, this all continued, of course. One very special event in the 1950s, 1955 exactly, the National Film Board came to town, and they wanted to do a film about a strike in a factory in town. And this was to get across the idea of labor relations and how two sides could talk together and solve a strike problem. The National Film Board set up in the town hall, and the town hall was the home base, of course. And we have many wonderful pictures of all the actors, and a lot of the Hanover members, citizens, played extra parts within the movie. That can still be seen if you Google National Film Board, and you can watch it right there, or you can actually purchase a copy on DVD. One of the most famous actors that starred in that movie was Jimmy Doohan, and Jimmy Doohan went on later in his life to star as Scotty in Star Trek for years and years, and this was one of his first acting jobs that he had. In the more modern era, we have of course nowadays we have the Hanover Community Players, which put on fabulous plays and a little theater several times a year. Little theater in the past, and we have pictures of a group doing Maine, another group doing Guys and Dolls. Of course, the Grey Bruce Singers have been performing for years, and they're always sold out in most days. And we have back porch productions, or back porch events, which is comes along every once in a while with different theme musicals or musical productions. One of my big worries, of course, with this kind of a facility and the immense amount of money that's been poured into this to make it up to date and to make it wonderful the way it is now, is that a lot of people have these big screen TVs in their basements, and they don't need to go out, and they don't need to see live productions when they have virtually a live production right in their basements. And the pandemic, of course, has not helped this. And I would urge anyone who's watching this to get out and support your local initiatives and support those people that are providing leadership and vision for these wonderful events. And live theater, there's nothing like it, really there isn't. I'd like to end with a poem by an old friend of mine. She was known as Hanover's Poet Laureate, and it's entitled The Town Hall. And they built a hall where the voice of the people might be heard, and the sweet strains of music enveloped the town with haunting melody and orchestral beauty, and the heritage of the people was fulfilled in music and drama. Let's all enjoy this new facility, and congratulations to all who have made this possible. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bruce Meyerink, Municipal Buildings Maintenance Coordinator, and this is Matt Morrison, Site Superintendent of Zettel Fisher Contracting. Today we're going to discuss the extensive renovation project of the Hanover Civic Theatre.
All right, so one of the first steps of this project was to reinforce the roof of the council chambers and the Winkler room in order to support the new rooftop units. So we have two rooftop units and two ERVs. Because of the weight of them, the existing structure was not strong enough and had to be all reinforced. And we were fighting the winter season coming, so right off the hop we had to rip out the ceilings in here and expose all the open web steel joists from the other side of that wall all the way to the atrium of the lobby. And so that involved putting members the size of the rooftop units, and then every member of the open web steel joists, horizontal bottom chord, horizontal top chord, and all the diagonal members had to have extra steel welded onto them. And it was tight spaces with some complicated ceilings to take down to reinstall. And it was about 2.5 months from the time that we started demolition to finish paint so that the town could reoccupy. So tight spaces and lots of services in the existing ceiling. So it was a bit of a challenge, but at the end of the day, everything went back together well, and it's almost like we weren't even in here. So that was satisfying.
So we're up on the roof of the council chamber at the moment. This is the area that we had to reinforce with all the structural steel, and this is the reason why. This air purification system is massive, extremely heavy, and this is why the structural upgrade had to happen before anything else happened. You see the size of the stuff? We're standing here, we're average sized people. These things dwarf us, but they're big and they're heavy.
I believe they're about 2,000 pounds per unit. So we got 2 tons of extra weight up on this roof in these 2 units alone. Not to mention there's extra snow loading. Now that these units are on here, that'll cause drifting. So that maybe helps understand why the reinforcements were required.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had to increase the natural gas pipeline as well to feed these units for the heating side. But you come inside here, you can have a look. It's big. There's a lot of airflow here, a lot of airflow. Okay, here we have our ultra-modern, state-of-the-art sound system. They're coupled with the speakers that are hanging in the ceiling, as well as we have subwoofers in the floor. It sounds fantastic, unbelievable.
And then this piece of equipment next to the sound system, this is called the deluge system. A big part of this project was bringing the life safety of the building up to current code, being as that it's attached to a building that already had those features in it. So this deluge system was something I've never been involved in before. Basically, it creates a water wall at the front of the stage should there ever be a fire up on this area. And it's a very in-depth system and not very common, but it's new to me. So it was a pretty interesting project to be involved in. Along with that, we have 4 smoke vents put in the ceiling. So if the smoke sensors in the ceiling detect anything, automatic hatches open so that the smoke can exhaust, so the occupants of the theater are able to get out safely without being overcome by smoke. Also, part of the upgrades was all new wiring, full sprinkler system on top of the deluge system, and another feature for this is the whole building has been spray foamed. When we did demolition on this, when we ripped out the old surface finish, you saw exposed brick behind the finishes. There was no insulation. So now the building, I even notice it smells fresher, and it's very comfortable in here. And when we were doing that demolition, this is a 3-wide brick exterior wall, and evidence of the fire back in the 30s was still able to be seen. The brick walls were all covered in soot, and you could still see all the just damage from the fire, and it was interesting to witness that when we had it all ripped apart. And now it's gone back together and no one will see it again.
Here I am in the control booth of the Civic Theatre. This component here manages the ultra-modern stage lighting. These are stage lights. They rotate, they have the full color spectrum, they're computerized, and they're cooled. So these lights will move with these controls here. They can go left to right and up and down. And you can change each light manually with any color you want to create the effect that you want to create. Plus, these lights have the global effect as well, so you can project a global effect on the back screen, no problem. We also have a mammoth-sized power screen. If there was to be a projector, sort of a presentation, we push a button, down it comes. That's the size of the screen that we have. And the projector would sit roughly 2 feet below this control booth. With the controls being up here, we would project whatever the audience is wanting to see. It could be a presentation, it could be some sort of entertainment program of some sort, children's program possibly. So that's, here we are in the community hall with this beautiful ultra-modern servery.
The servery was moved up. It used to be in the lower portion of the building, and anyone that needed to get through the serving window had to crouch down. So now the servery's been brought up, the plumbing's been extended into this portion of the building, and the low area has been redone for additional storage and upgraded washrooms for the actors or anyone using the stage area. The floor that we're standing on now has also been replaced. It used to be hardwood that was going to be refinished, but as you walked through the building, it squeaked a lot. So it was determined that the old hardwood and the sleepers that it was on should be pulled up and replaced with a concrete topping, and this nice new vinyl floor was put down, which is a very durable product. And then moving into the west end of the community hall, the old washrooms were gutted and redone with new finishes. Flush valve toilets, which are better for commercial use as opposed to a residential style tank toilet. Everything has been done with automated flushing, automated faucets, and this now has new air system as well as the rest of the building. There used to be an air handler in that corner, so removing that air handler and putting the air conditioning units up on the roof has added lots of added extra space in this area. One other feature of this space is that it used to have hydronic piping hanging from the ceiling, which made the space feel smaller because it just lowered the ceiling, and now everything has been tucked into concealed spaces as much as possible. And again, fully sprinklered, new lighting, upgraded electrical, and the life safety has really been improved in this area to be on par with the rest of the building. And it is all now monitored by a fire alarm, which it used to just have smoke detectors in here. So it's really made the space come into the new age.
as in olden days, together with friends.
There's nothing more contagious than laughter.
Do you know you have come?
You got me. My turn. Don't call it a comeback. Yeah, silly.
Over here. If you thought I was just another dumb blonde, well, the joke's on you. I'm Harley Quinn. Pleased to meet you.
Thank you.